thanks Lee for closing that tab.
Yeah, it's a good thing that we don't have a badge for dunce or something like that.
You should get an extra badge for jokes as well.
Oh, say it again.
You should get an extra badge for your jokes as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we could have a little nerd badge. Whoa. Whoa, could everybody hear that ding? No?
Yeah.
Jeez. Good. Okay. Well, yeah. Anyway, that was my one of my younger sisters saying happy birthday to me. And it turns out.
Oh, happy birthday, Lee.
Oh, hey. Yeah. No. I wasn't gonna mention it, but yeah. You can tell I'm getting up there.
Happy birthday.
You can see it happening right here. Unfortunately, it's not just right here anymore. It's like so. Anyway, welcome everybody. It's December 11th. We're having a community meeting. We're going to get started now, even though a couple of more folks might join. And yeah, embarrassingly, I'm a year older as of this morning. I was on a call earlier with a couple of the contributors and tried to make a reference to Knight Rider. Is anybody familiar with the Knight Rider show? They had the awesome, like, the talking car called Kit, I think, and it would do it like, it would like show this red. So see right here, it would like talk and like, and so, yeah, you have to be a child of the 80s or what have you, I guess, to remember that. So.
We do a different name for such a kind of show in India.
Yeah.
Like we do movies.
Oh. So anyway, I've yeah. And my references have become older and older. So anyway, enough about me and my birthday. Let's talk about all of you and the things that are going on in the community. Speaking of all of you and things that are going on in the community, Marcin, you're on the call, I think, for the first time today, the first time on the community call, which means you get to say hi and take a moment to introduce yourself if you would. It'd be nice to get to know you.
Okay. Hi, hello, and happy birthday, first of all.
Thanks.
Okay, so as I wrote on this Slack, yes, I'm from Warsaw, Poland. Yes, I started, I'm also quite old right now. Yes, I started several years ago as DBA, next evaluated as a, let's say, middleware consultant and DevOps last time. I had some experience with the OpenShift, with some Kubernetes clusters and so on. And I'm really interested right now with these meshes, different meshes. Yes, so this is why I'm just interested in this, especially in this.
Yeah, this ecosystem. Yeah, this sort of this project, the community, the sounds like service meshes at large. And by the way, it's enunciated Marcin. Is that right?
A lot of people say this, but in Polish it's rather Marcin. But never mind.
I'm gonna practice that one. Okay.
It's fine. It's fine.
Well, fair enough. So, thanks for that intro. Sounds like your pre Docker containers, your zones, like you're even hipper than these silly Docker containers, Solaris zones, and is that right? Did you touch any zones when you were doing some Solaris?
No, Solaris. I didn't say Solaris. I saw I just managed Solaris a little bit, but since now that was several years ago, rather HPX. But I was mostly interested in Linux, the Debian especially. So I rather the Linux guy than the old Unix.
Okay. 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 Fair enough. Oh, cool. Oh, very nice to have you. By the way, you've touched on a topic, on a topic that's been recent conversation, and so it's quite timely. We're going to talk about Minikube and try to set the record straight, so to speak, on whether or not sort of the approach that Meshery, the documentation takes and the tooling takes to getting connected to Minikube. So a fantastic topic to go over. But other than that, some housekeeping items. So just so everyone's familiar that, hey, we record our calls and post them on YouTube and share and rewatch them. I'll be studying how to enunciate Marcin later, but we've had a few people join this week. If you recall from last week, this week we held 2 workshops and a couple of new community members, I think maybe trickled in from there, which is nice. Some of you might have seen Sean Foley message in Slack, signaling that he's interested in helping out on documentation. What a beautiful thing that is. And actually, I think Sean might be bumping into some of the same questions that Marcin has. And Amia was having some questions on Minikube as well. So like, we'll talk about this. Hey, I'm older today. Great, that's news. Turns out it's generally a blessing. Like we have Thanksgiving, and every Thanksgiving, man, pecan pie, like that's my dessert. That's my thing. Nobody else. I have 3 little ones and a wife, and nobody else likes the pecan pie. So it's awesome. I get an entire pie to myself. Yesterday, when I was asked what I wanted for dessert for my birthday, I said there's this chocolate walnut cake. I like walnuts, and nobody else likes them. And the problem is now I'm being called selfish for making a request. So anyway, there's a bit of news. Speaking of news, you all have been in the news. Who all has seen these write-ups from things that were delivered at KubeCon? I'm hoping that these have crossed your path. So the fact that the community, that all of you are defining a new standard, it's a big deal. And people paid attention and they're writing it up. And they're talking about the landscape as well that we do. So both of these, I think, came out maybe late last week or this week. I don't recall. But a lot of coverage of the landscape here. Great. They sort of open up this article talking about the projects that we do here. They kind of mention it in the middle, and then, or rather, and then they end with all of your stuff as well. So that's pretty neat. SMP is not, it's a really important project, and it's one that will get advanced a little bit more as we get into Nighthawk, as we do Get Nighthawk. And I know that some of the details of Get Nighthawk are probably not well understood by everyone. Potentially we could talk about that. Who else has topics as we sit here? I know, well, actually, since Pratya is here, since Neil is here, could be good to talk about Get Nighthawk. I'm going to put that as a topic, Neil, if that's all right. And whether or not it's all right or not, I'm putting it as a topic.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
Actually, I'm out of station today, so yeah, I'll be just
Listening. Okay. Fair enough. No demo from you today, but okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If other people have topics, toss them in. It's good to chat on them. Any comments, by the way, on the news? I mean, it tickles me to no end to see that people are really paying attention to what you all are doing. I didn't go talk to those individuals and tell them they should. We didn't pitch them and ask them to write it up. So that says something. Fair enough. Okay. There's a couple of folks that have joined the call, and I'm gonna. By the way, so the community meeting minutes are open to everyone to take notes in. Please do. Otherwise, you'll listen to me stumble over my words as my brain tries to do typing and talking. Hard enough for me to just do talking. Speaking of talking, I'd love to hear from Maxime.
Hello?
Hello. How are you?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Take a moment to introduce yourself if you would. It's very nice to meet you.
Yeah, sure. Nice to meet you, and thanks
Yeah.
for inviting. So yeah, my name is Maxim. I'm from France. I've been living in London for a few years. I'm basically a front-end developer. I've got like between 2 and 3 years of experience in a company as a front-end, and I'm eager to learn more and more about front-end basically, and having a deeper knowledge of JavaScript by working myself on open source projects such as this one.
You're in the right place. I mean, also, is it, can you say your first name for me?
Maxime.
Okay. Yeah, also.
M-A-X-I-M-E.
Hey, for my part, hey, I really appreciate how you jumped in on the Layer5 repo, how you introduced, or how vocal you are. It really helps. I feel like for my part, I already kind of know you. So, and were you able to join the newcomers call yesterday?
Yeah.
Is that kind of thing helpful? Did you find that it was help to orient you to the community, to the projects?
What do you mean by about the call yesterday, or just?
Yeah, or just like the fact that meeting, it runs every Thursday, and the point of it is really to try to welcome in people who are new to the community and sort of orient them to the projects And I'm wondering if we're still accomplishing that goal.
I've already been in touch with a few regarding what I can do to contribute. So I already contributed on small issues on the next gen website, and I'm almost done with the Meshery setup on my local machine, and I'm about to have a look on the React code base to solve one issue. And it's not an issue; it's more like an improvement. You, the one you sent me on Slack
Yeah,
regarding the STO text area.
totally. I totally remember that one. Very good. Okay. Yeah, it sounds like the newcomers call is working out. You're cruising right along. So you're having success. It's great. Very nice. If we get a chance later on the call, it might even be worth like talking about the Meshery UI a little bit and talking about that enhancement that you're looking at. But
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, good.
I still
Good to
didn't
have you.
look at everything. I had a brief look at the other project about data visualization, but not not a deep look I had so far. I I think I will come back to that later after this issue maybe.
Yeah.
It's really nice to have you on call, Maxime, because the issue that you've been having with Minikube, we're discussing that today, and I really hope that be helpful
Yeah,
to you as well.
yeah, I will try to fix this today, but I think it's almost done unless except this ping this ping issue I have.
I still believe that has something to do with the config file, but let's see through it.
Yeah.
Good. And then we also have Mihir, Zakaria. Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Hello.
Hello. Am I audible?
You are.
Oh, yeah, hi.
Yeah. Good. Hey, nice to have you on the call. Do you want to take a moment to introduce yourself, where you're from, and what brings you here?
Yeah, I'm actually from India, and I'm actually friends with Dhruv Patel, Vinit Reddy, and Jash Patel too. And I have also attended a newcomers meeting a few weeks back, but I was kind of involved in my brother's wedding. So right now I got some time apart from the wedding period, so I just attended this meeting.
How many weddings did you say your brother had? Like, isn't it like a white horse?
Yeah, actually, uh, actually, my sister is also getting engaged this weekend, and my brother is also engaged a few weeks back. So, yeah, uh, we have a big family here.
Wow. All right. You guys are moving around. Oh, that's great.
Yep. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Nice to have you. Good. Well, last announcement is that Google season of Docs is concluding, and Shriti, congrats. Like you did the deed. You did a few deeds. I won't try to recount them. But it's a pretty cool thing. Any thoughts on GSOD? On your experience?
It's been really great, and thank you to everybody in the community for helping out and for supporting the project.
Yeah. I've the Catacodas. There's a couple of people who joined recently. A lot of actually, I had an old cohort from Cisco, a technical lead, who was introduced to Meshery some time ago, and she said, "Wow, that's really interesting. I'd like to learn more. Are there, what do I do next? Or are there, I forget if she used the word labs or if she used, are there exercises to go through, something like that? And that was, many months ago. And my response, I didn't have a good response, but thanks to Shriti, we do now, right? Those catacodas, we're going to spend some time on those labs. So I'm really excited about those. That and the clipboard icon, like I just, cool. Okay, very good. Very good. Congrats, Shriti. All right, let's dive into this if we can. I think we've covered everyone on the call. It's very nice to see Husseina. So actually, I think there's 10 people on the call who have something to do with this discussion. Abhishek, you and I were just talking a little bit earlier about the project's approach to when you deploy Meshery as a Docker Compose application, as a Docker application, and you've got a Kubernetes cluster like Minikube that where Meshery is external to the cluster. And if you deployed Meshery using Docker by default, or the way that the project deploys today, Meshery is deployed onto its own network that's of type bridge, a bridge type in Docker land, which means that it has its own private IP address space, and which also means it doesn't necessarily share the same DNS or share access to some of the same. It basically means that Kubernetes and Meshery are on two different networks, different DNSs, different connectivity. And some people have been bumping into issues here. Abhishek, do you have anything from what we were just discussing?
So the major issue that people are facing is on the Minikube setup. I think so.
Mm-hmm.
And so yes, I just did a setup in my local on Minikube using Minikube, and it works like a charm.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Can you share your screen and maybe walk through what that looks like?
Sure. Yeah.
And so your environment, you're on Mac OS. You've got.
Yeah. I'm on macOS running Minikube, and I've used Meshery CTL to run Meshery. And so to run Minikube, I have done nothing less than Minikube start, nothing more than Minikube start, and so my UI comes up, and before correcting it, so let me just I'll just iterate on what I did. So basically, when you do Minikube start, Minikube generates a kube config which has relative paths like these of the certificate files in your kube config. And so when you run kube config or kubectl config view and then minify the config, you get the minified config, as in the referenced certificates are offloaded into the same file so that it is not referenced anywhere else. And so after doing that, you just have to upload it on the Meshery server, and I just did that currently. And so I did a minify, and then I stored it in a separate file config. So I'm just going to upload that config, and yeah, that's it. I mean, now Meshery is able to talk to the cluster. That's pretty much what you need to do for Minikube, especially.
I can confirm that's correct, and that works because we're using the exact same configuration for Catacoda as well. It's even working on that VM.
Okay. Yeah. And so yeah, for those who are facing issues, maybe you can start from scratch, do as what I did, And if you're still facing issues, then yeah, do let me know. I can help you debug them.
So while other, so Hussein, please go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Abhishek, actually, I had a question about, can you share your screen one more time? I want to see the steps that you had followed.
Sure. Yeah. You mean that my terminalization?
Yeah, terminal. Yes.
Okay. So you just have to. This is the extra thing
So,
that you need to do. Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, the right side terminal. Can you just scroll up? So, what did you do to get that config file first?
So
Okay,
earlier the
config
config.
view. Okay, mini file, right? So,
Yeah. So it's minify and then flatten. You need to have both options.
okay. So in this case, so you have used only a Meshery serial system start, right? So, okay, so Meshery is already running, and then you are basically your Minikube cluster details. You are updating it on the UI, right? Okay, I was working with configuration later. I think after Meshery CTL system start, if you do system config EKS, right, that is where I have a problem where the auth.json, uh, I want to know how we can get it. I mean, Lee had shown that it can be downloaded from the UI. So is there
Right.
any programmatic way, or is it in memory, or is it also on some persistent storage on the system from where we can fetch it? That's the only thing I'm stuck at actually.
Okay. So you need the auth.json. You mean?
Yes, yeah, I need the auth.json. So looks like from UI we can download it. So I
Hmm.
wanted to know if there is any CLI way of downloading it, or is it also stored on some specific path on the system that I can go and read it?
Sure. I think we do have like we do have a CLI way of doing it.
Okay.
It's right here. It's system config minikube, and then this is basically
So
how
this
you
is
export.
actually, this is like you are giving your own auth.json file. I'm talking about reading the auth.json from the Meshery instance. So I'm asking the other way around. This is like giving it as input. So
Okay.
from a
Okay.
specific, yeah.
Okay. I think. Correct me if I'm wrongly. I don't think we have that option to download it from CLI. I guess.
Right. Yeah. The reason being is because, so to re-articulate what Hussein is asking is, in less words, she's saying, hey, I want to run a CLI command, and I'm using the CLI and the way that the user experience is that what we're saying is, okay, before you can run a CLI command, which like helps you stand up Meshery, you have to actually go into Meshery, download a token, go back to the CLI. Actually, you go back to the CLI and pass it the file. Like, part of what she's highlighting is like, maybe that user experience could be better, or like, maybe it'd be nice if I didn't
Right.
have to, Now the
Yes.
the challenge is it's a chicken before the egg kind of a thing. Or
Yes. Yeah. It's the same problem. Yeah.
so yeah, and so it's a security concern of like if yep yep if Meshery server allowed people to download the token or their token without in an unauthenticated way, then that would be now.
Okay. So then maybe we have to document this, that we have to first get the token, and then then only we can do the system config EKS, right? So first, let's start the Meshery server normally, and then the config EKS can be done this way, right?
Right. Yeah. Yep.
But if in case the auth.json is already present in the local path, I would just go ahead and configure, right? If it doesn't exist, there should be a specific message saying that this is how you can download it and rerun this command again. Basically, that would be it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, that brings a smile to my face because you're designing a good you're designing a good user experience.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some issue. There's a couple of things about this. So one, before I go off and pontificate about how it is that I think that this should be and how the best experience and all that, I want to try to make sure that Maxime and Marcin are good to go, like that your systems are, your Meshery is able to connect to your Minikube.
Not yet.
And Marcin, if you're comfortable, do you want to do a screen share, or do you want to talk a little bit?
Yeah. This, I think it will be no problem. Okay, can you see?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe this way. So the Meshery is up. Yes. The issue which when I try to just update this config with this JSON file, which I downloaded, of course, from this, say me after a while that unable to ping the Kubernetes. In this whole setup, this is the VM, the Docker is inside, the Minikube with Docker driver is installed, and they basically all the Docker composes, of course, and so on. The Minikube is just running well. I can run a pod, whatever, but this is the Y return this unable to ping. Yeah.
I believe there is an issue with Nginx, right?
Yeah, and I of course connected to the bridge. Yeah, but it's already connected. Yes, so you can see that the endpoint with the name already exists. Yes, so the step with connecting the container with Meshery to the network bridge is done, and so I little bit stuck. And if I check the logs, yes, you can see there is somewhere this message that the files cannot be that the certificate, yes, we have it, for example, there, yes. So there is the issue that there's unable to create client config from config, invalid configuration, and the real issue is that the certificate files cannot be read by the Meshery-1 and also by the OSM. That was exactly the same message. But if I check these files, this files exists. Yes, exactly, this files exists. All this container are up. I checked also so the processes are running, the OSM is running as a root, so it should be no issue regarding this. So I I don't know why there are these messages regarding these files. And of course, I uploaded the config there. Settings, yes, I uploaded the config there, but it doesn't have this flatten config.
There's a couple issues at play. I think one of them is that the fact that one of the adapters is looking for the certificates at that local, at that, it shouldn't be looking for the certificates there. The Docker container itself that Meshery OSM, that the OSM adapter is running within, it doesn't have a mount point. It doesn't have access to that aspect of the file system. Although since it's running as root, maybe there's a, but irrespective of whether or not it has that access or not, which it shouldn't, because the Docker file doesn't define the fact that it can get to it. When we do that flatten and minify, the purpose of doing so is to take the contents of the key and certificate files that you have listed and put those into the kube config itself. That way, that single file, that single kube config file, has all the info needed about where Kubernetes is, where Kube API is, what certificate to use to auth to it. And so okay, and this is what I think that what we have here is a bad user experience and probably a bug somewhere here. We also generally have this issue where we've really facilitated the ease of standing up Meshery by letting people run a quick command to run it in Docker. The issue is that it runs on its own separate network, which oftentimes has challenges communicating with Kubernetes or workloads that you're running in Kubernetes. And we haven't paid enough attention to some of those pitfalls. Actually, so Marcin, right now on my machine, I have the same experience as you. Like, mine won't connect to Minikube. As a matter of fact, even if I export and minify using the command that you just ran, the kubectl command, it still doesn't connect. And so the experience that Abhishek was having, that's good and great, but I'm doing the same thing and don't get that. So there's something that we need to change. Let me explain a little bit more of what's going on with the command. Why do we have the MesheryCTL system config command? And so Abhishek, that's fantastic. I wonder if there isn't something. Okay. Why do we have the system config, Minikube system config, EKS, GKE? What's the purpose of the command in the first place? It was intended to help bring a nicer experience. When a user wants to interface with EKS or GKE or even Minikube, the way that Meshery wants to try to connect to those Kubernetes environments is by having a config file that has the certificates inside. And there's a small process to run to export and to do what we're doing, right? When you want to do that for EKS or GKE or AKS, the process is more involved because you have to have like the G-Cloud CLI tool or the AWS, what is it, AWS Cloud or AWS? You have to have those CLI tools because they've got other systems in play, IAM and whatever else is going on. And it can be kind of involved. And so we brought forth the MesheryCTL system config command to make that more convenient, make it easier for people to get sort of a kube config that Meshery can read from and quickly connect to the Kubernetes environment. And in order to, some of those, my understanding is some of what needs to be done there, I thought at one point involves some crypto, and I could be misremembering, but when you run the MesheryCTL system config Minikube, And the reason that you have to provide your token is because the function that's running to create that config, it's actually Meshery server that's doing that work. And yeah, something's falling down in the process. Like what we were trying to achieve is that MesheryCTL system config would export the cube config, get it into the right way, and at the same time, it would push that config to Meshery server, so that when someone pulls up Meshery, you know, their system is loaded up. And yeah, we're not getting this right. So it is curious to me that Abhishek's system, when he follows the instructions, that he's able to connect. It's curious to me. It seems there's something defective about the fact that there's a reference to the Vagrant home folder and to those certificate files, because right now it's true that the Meshery adapters and Meshery server itself, they're physically on Marcin's laptop, but they're running in a separate VM. It shouldn't have to be required to be able to get access to that local file system to get those certificates. Like there needs to be a nice clean separation between.
That one is from the cube config, as in apparently it's not minified and flattened.
Gotcha. So the command MesheryCTL system config Minikube, it's not actually doing its job. It's not actually exporting and
yeah,
minifying.
it's not.
So Marcin, if you know the kubectl config view, that command where you've exported this, if you take the output of that and persist it to a file and upload that, yeah, that Minikube config, does that work or no?
You would like just to upload this config to the via GUI, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. 1 minute.
See, this happens, like that doesn't work for me either. And my impression is that Meshery server is running on its own network separately. The reference that it's going to have to Minikube it's not always going to be able to reach that name or that IP address.
No, it uses the host IP. If you look at the server name, it says 192.168 stuff, which means it has to. It could be possible that some mess up with the certificate side.
So yeah, at the top of Marcin's terminal, it identifies the server address. It's HTTPS. It's 192.168.49.2.8443, and that's what we were seeing in the settings. Yeah, and you can see it in the tooltip there. It's that.
Another thing to notice is that it took a couple of seconds to time out or to say unable to reach, which means that it's not a connectivity issue, because if it is connectivity issue, then it happens immediately. Like it says connection refused right away. And if it is certificate, yes, it tries to validate, retry, and then comes back as failure.
Okay, so your working hypothesis is, hey, there is network connectivity, but potentially the host name, like 192.160, potentially there's an authentication failure.
The certificates are not properly configured in that app, in the Meshery server.
That makes some sense.
I can see something else, because if I check the whole IP interfaces, this machine, this is from this network, we have 49.1, yes. But this Meshery is trying the 49.2. It's strange a little bit for me. You can see there's why is choosing the 49.2, not the 49.1.
Yeah, is that well, or what you're looking at on the terminal? That's just
this terminal. Yes, there is the VM. This is the CentOS 7.5. Yes, there is the Docker inside and so on. Docker.
And I think that's okay, because I mean it's just saying, hey, these are the routes, these are the networks that it knows about, and the default gateway for that network is the .1 address. So I think,
but this is not the gateway. This is the interface address of the interface, and this is trying to connect to the interface 49.2. Yes. There is something there. Something which on HTTPS protocol is listening there. There is the certificate. So there is something there.
curiously, and in part, I think maybe to prove Abhishek's point, if you were to exec into your Meshery server container and modify the hosts file to register Minikube, or the name Minikube as, as that same IP address, I wonder, would that, you could then specify the server name in your kube config as Minikube, which then might overcome the issue.
You mean in this, yes, in this place, you would like to just replace the IP with the Minikube name, yeah?
Right on.
That will that work? I don't think it will.
Yeah, I don't know.
I believe there was some SSL certificate related error, right, with the last curl command?
Also, one more thing. This kubeconfig seems to be a little buggy. It has two kubeconfig files marshaled over the same time.
Okay, you're right. Okay, yes, that's right. You're right.
Yeah, it looks good now. So using this file, basically uploading this didn't work. Is that correct?
I tried before with the. Okay, we can try just to.
Yes.
Just to make it step by step. Yes. So there is with this IP.
Mhm. Oh, okay.
Doesn't.
You did a SCP into another VM. Is that what you did?
No, because this terminal, which you can see, there is the virtual machine, yes, and this virtual machine has its own IP, and I'm connecting from my the host, yes, the Windows PC. So I need to fetch this file, yes,
Oh, okay.
from this virtual machine, just to be able to upload it via the browser.
Mhm.
But it, okay.
So if I understand the setup right, it means that you're running Meshery in your Windows system and Minikube in a remote VM. Is that right?
This is the VM which is running on this Windows system. Yes, there is the hypervisor, Hyper-V in this case. Yes,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it runs the VM with the Linux.
Okay.
Everything is in this VM.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But it was quicker this time.
Yeah, because the
it was
endpoint is not.
And to Abhishek's point, like that helps sort of prove part of his hypothesis about. But if to disprove mine or my somewhat maybe silly suggestion, if you were to exec into your Meshery server container and update your host file to resolve Minikube to that same IP.
Okay, and you mean the Meshery container, this one?
Yeah. Now, Abhishek, that won't work because is it the data that's encoded into the certificate that's what is going to determine whether or not the right host name is?
No, Lee. So I think here the setup is so that basically there is a VM that comes in between. So I'm not sure if it's taking the right host IP.
Okay.
But this VM it's not between this VM. Yes, on this VM, yes, this Linux VM, there is Docker running, the Meshery is installed there, the Minikube installed, everything is there. Yes, and this machine, yes,
and
has
VM is running on Windows, correct?
Yeah, just.
And where is Minikube installed? Is it inside the VM or on
Yes,
Windows?
yes, this is inside VM. Yes, the Minikube version. Yes,
Okay.
The kubectl get or whatever. Yes, there is the then Minikube IP, and on the same machine, you have this Meshery processes running. Yes, so everything is on the same machine. There is no between.
Okay.
I'm just with the browser. Yes, I'm just calling this from this native Windows. But I was unable to because this container is running as a user, as app user, and I think I will be not able to modify. I do not have enough rights, yes, to modify this etc host file.
Right.
So I think to make such a workaround, we need to rebuild this container.
Right.
Are you able to call to the Kube API server from within the container?
You mean this address, yes?
Yes, that's what it is.
Okay. Do we have curl there? No. Do we have NC? No.
Okay.
Or do we have telnet?
Okay.
I don't know.
Can you go into Meshery-OSM container? I think I'm pretty sure you have NC in there.
Okay, so right now I'm okay from this. Do we have?
Yes, so the one that Leah sent on the chat. Can you do that? Oh no, not this. Leah sent a command on the chat. Can you
Okay.
run that? Yeah.
Where is the chat window? Okay, but there is the NC there. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. But why 48, not 41?
Is it 49? Or I probably misremembered.
Okay.
I think it was
I
40.
think, yeah. Okay.
It was 49.
And it looks like there is network connectivity.
Yeah, there is network connectivity. Can you run curl? Is curl there?
Yeah, but from the host, yes, from the VM, it was working. No, but if there is no connectivity, I think we do not receive an out.
It did. Okay.
Exactly the same as from this host. Yes, here we are. There is the output. So the container, yes, the container doesn't have network access. But the host itself, yes, the container with this OSM.
Okay.
And I made only the bridge from the Meshery as in documentation. Yes, I only make the connect with this Meshery. Maybe if we make the connection with this OSM. Right.
Can you run the command that I sent on the chat?
You mean I think that will be not there. I think there is the default installation. There is no, it will be no daemon JSON because in this there is no such folder. Yes.
Is it Ubuntu? Okay.
No. This is
St. Louis. All right.
this is 7.5.
So were you able to successfully run that curl command now that you've connected the OSM container to that network? Were you able to run the curl command?
No. It wasn't successfully. I after connecting, yes, to the bridge, yes, just already. Yes, and there we're not able still.
But I wonder if to humor me, well, I guess this wouldn't be to humor me. If you do the curl command, because is NC trying to do the same? I don't know that it's trying to do the same HTTP request as curl is.
I think it's just only trying if the port is open. That's all. But yeah, of course. So for me, there's no connectivity. So there's no network connectivity at all.
It actually depends on the interface configuration.
Okay, so I have some point just to verify this from the Docker.
So the traditional configuration is in varlib docker /var/lib/docker. That's the location where you have these configurations for Docker.
Yeah, it should be the default configuration, but when there is no daemon.json, so that will be the all defaults applied. But this Docker installation, isn't anything custom. Yes, this is the default Docker C installation.
Okay.
On CentOS OS, of course, yes.
Mm-hmm. Lee, I guess we are kind of
okay
out of track for this part. We can try to stick it out for debugging.
But I think it will be useful just to troubleshoot it further, because we have. I understand that the container doesn't have connectivity, yes, to this AP which VMs has to snap something regarding the network connectivity on the Docker layer. So I think so. I will try to find some solution for it. Rather not yet. So if you have some other topics, maybe we can move on, and I will try to just dig for it.
Sure.
Beautiful. Yeah,
okay, so I'm stopping sharing.
And Marcin, if I can say this, it's evident that you're equally, if not more competent in identifying that solution as the rest of. I mean, you know. So, yeah, it's a bit confusing because I would have. It's like. Like curl and NC should come back really fast if they're not able to connect at all. So to me, it looks like it's confusing because it looks like they've established a connection, but but beyond that, at a higher level, it's like at a TCP level, they've got the connection. At a higher level, they're not having the right exchange, and both of them are like waiting on the transaction to complete, like waiting on the appropriate response to say, hey, you've been able to establish a secure connection on top of the TCP connection. So it's confusing because it feels like there's sort of two things that we're battling. One is there literally network connectivity? And then two, even when there is, in order to have a successful exchange, we're going to have resolved the host name that you're calling with the certificate data and whether or not that matches. And like, Yeah.
Yeah, Lee, I mean, to add to your point, it's like the request from Docker container has been transferred via the gateway to the destination, or it doesn't reach the destination properly, could be the case. And basically the one who sent the request is waiting for the response packet, and that's basically what's happening.
I'm going to learn something here. This is going to be, thanks for this, Marcin. It's going to be, so Maxime, right now, are you sort of stuck, or were you able to get past this?
I got exactly. I've been following what Marcin were doing, and I got the same error. I got no connectivity with the same IP, and yeah, that's exactly the same for me.
Okay. Not that we aren't going to fix this issue and we shouldn't have it, but in the meantime, just to unblock you as you go to try to get familiar with Meshery UI and things, if you're able to use Docker Desktop and use the Kubernetes that in Docker Desktop, that might be a workaround in the meantime.
Isn't that just for Windows when the Docker desktop?
Windows or Mac.
Because I got Linux.
Okay.
So I need Minikube as well.
Okay. Yep. Yep. I don't know if doing a kube ADM, I don't know if doing a different type of Kubernetes install would have any more success or not. Okay. I'm just thinking about Husseina's question. Husseina, like we could do a different build of Meshery server that isn't so small, but rather includes a few dev tools like TCP dump. That might help in some debug.
Actually, I was assuming the Meshery server is running on the host itself, but I think it is. It's running in the VM, right? Yeah. So I think it would be a smaller image, so we can't. Okay. And all these VMs containers will not have this TCP dump tools, right?
Well, we could change that, but that's within our control to, modify, just to have a different Docker file for it and build in that tool or
okay.
So that's a good troubleshooting, suggestion. That's so we could do that. I'll catch up with you, after about that. Good.
I believe, like everyone was saying, I believe it could be the Ssl handshake which is going wrong, right? And few things that we could think of is the cert size, if it is big and we have some MTU issues, that could also be one issue. And we might be doing basically TCP retransmits, right? Till we time out. That could be one of the issues, right?
Yeah, it kind of looks like that, right? Because it does obviously there's something that's trying to process and eventually it will time out. And if it's like to your point, it may be, it may be that it isn't about the host name matching their certificate and stuff we're in part seeing that issue in one area, but that transaction should happen fairly quick. It should be like there was an evaluation done and the handshake either completed or it didn't. And so to your point, it is crossing a few different virtual network connections. And so, something's likely to get mangled as we go.
Also,
go ahead.
we are in two different subnets, right? Like 168.100 subnet, and this is 49 subnet, right? So I believe that's all checked out, that there is a connectivity and all that, right, between these subnets. Though they are like 192, 168, but not the same subnets, right? So
Right.
I'm not sure how the connectivity is, so that's why I just wanted to understand how they are server and
Right. Yeah.
UI are placed. Yeah.
So Marcin, briefly to answer Husseina's question, it was your Hyper-V VM where kube config Minikube is running was in the 192.168.49/24 network, and your Meshery server, I think it was like a 172.18 something. Like there aren't overlapping IPs.
So the part where I'm confused is that Minikube versus HyperKit under the hood for creating the cluster, and the VM is also using the HyperKit to create a VM, as in Windows uses HyperKit to create VM. So could be possible that there is a restriction between these two subnets or something like that.
Wow, I didn't realize what time it is. I didn't realize we're like 12 minutes over the hour. So,
yeah.
Well,
so there is no overlap. Yes, there is the C-class network with 24 masks, and they are not overlapping. Yes, you have
okay. So basically, you need to check the rules, as in if one is not blocking the other or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Outside of troubleshooting this specific thing, there's some thought to be given as to the overall approach about Meshery deploying into a bridge network, and part of the challenge that people face as part of that. And that's another angle to think about this. Another angle to think about this from is, well, okay, so how is it, I mean, outside of the networking, just how is it that Meshery is wanting to authenticate? Well, it's wanting to use these exported certs and talk like that. Okay, but there's also other ways to authenticate to Kubernetes. There's a bearer token. There's other like service, should be other service accounts, but those will also require the same certificate. Potentially different ways to skin this cat by restructuring the problem statement, you know. Okay, oh, that's good. It's good and bad. It's bad. It's good to learn, to be stumped and learn something, but it's kind of frustrating too, because Abhishek, like we just watched on your machine, it worked. On my machine, I'm on a Mac as well, Docker desktop on Mac, and similar stuff. But I'm basically hitting the same thing that the Maxime and Marcin are hitting. So.
Right.
Okay. Well, so we should end the call because we're over and people have other things going on. Husseina, I do want to catch up with you about this. And so maybe we should say thank you everyone for coming to the community call. It's been great. Husseina, if you want to stick around and talk for 15 minutes on this same call, I'm game. Let's do it. If anyone else wants to hang out, feel free to stay on. Else, thank you very much. Same time next week, everybody. Talk to you soon.
Surely. Yeah, I can stay. Yeah.
Thanks and happy birthday again.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Lee. I forgot. I missed it. Yeah.
Thanks. I feel a little awkward having pointed that out. All right. Okay. Well, everyone else who's hanging out is all has the same sickness. All can't get enough tech. So Husseina, you've been working on a very much related command for EKS to help facilitate, structuring a kube config file in a way in which Meshery can talk to EKS systems. And to open up the conversation here, there's an issue that I sort of have with our approach in general. So Meshery CTL as a Go binary, it's built of this. I'm telling you things that you know, but it's built of these files. Within here, there's our approach to generating the config file. So here's how we generate the config file for Minikube. It runs a bash script. And it literally runs the same command that Marcin was just doing. So like conceptually, these should be really similar. So why would someone not just run this? Why would they run the actual Meshery CTL thing? Because they've got to go get the token and all that. Like our hope is, well, in this case, like for Minikube, like the one thing is like, it's sort of consistent. People can get used to the tool. Like in this case, I don't know that it's a little more challenging actually for Minikube because you got to go get the token, bring it back, do the thing. But for something like GKE or for EKS, like it's a lot longer set of things that people have to do. So actually having Meshery CTL do that for you, I think can feel good and be good. But I have some beef with our approach in general. So my first bone to pick is we're using bash when and sometimes that's just how it needs to be, but ideally we would be using Go. And we're using bash because when you want to connect to AKS, or to GKE, you use that cloud vendor's, that cloud vendor's CLI. And so we're wrapping some bash around the CLI. And in which, it causes.
So Lee, we can in the future we can replace that Minify flatten thing with client Go, because we can do it with client Go.
I feel like we'd have a lot more success. The second thing that strikes me as maybe not the right thing is, I'm actually confused by this. So this to my knowledge is calling out to Meshery server. This is where Meshery CTL calls Meshery server and asks Meshery server to what? To spit back out. Like maybe is GitHub pointing me to the wrong run command? Is this run just saying?
I believe it's just running the script there, right? It's the exec command. We define the script to be run, and .run is when the command is actually run.
Okay.
So it's
that's correct.
Script being run. Yeah.
GitHub was misleading me. Okay, but what the reason that I got, while I was questioning that, the reason that I was continued to be misled is because like, why are we having to give it a token then from Meshery server if Meshery CTL is not calling Meshery server? Like, why do we need that auth token then? if it's just a bash script that's running from here.
Yeah, actually, we do set some context. So that is where that's in the other file. So we do this to get the config.yaml file. So whatever we have here.
Okay.
And after we fetch the config.yaml, we try to do some additional things in the other file. So which is, this is scripts, right? The other one is,
I found a solution for this connectivity. In the meantime, yeah, because I think the command was the connecting the bridge. This is, you have the networks on the Docker level, yes, and the network which we really need to connect, this is not bridge, this is the Minikube. Yes, and if I connected the Minikube bridge, not the bridge called bridge, but the bridge called Minikube, this gave these containers the connectivity. So I made the curl from the OSM successfully right now. Okay, I just paste on the chat. Where's this chat? Okay. So there is the how the networks looks like. Yes, you have the bridge network. Maybe it's not pretty formatted, but you have the bridge, and you have also the bridge which is created by Minikube. And after connecting the Minikube bridge to this specific container, so after just executing something like this, yeah, not the connect bridge. This is because this is different bridge. By connect the bridge just related to this Minikube network. So after that, this connectivity from this container works. So and after that, yes, our previous test is successful.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Marcin, this isn't the first time that we've talked about this. So here's a diagram kind of the, and you may or may not have seen this, but this is sort of for everyone else in the call, trying to help visualize like what's going on.
So you have the same, but the bridge name is different. So I think on the Docker desktop or the macOS, the bridge related to the, maybe there is only one because there is the Docker desktop, yes. And for the Linux machine, we have two. The Minikube create its own, yes, and we need to connect the proper bridge.
Okay. Now, by the way, does this, if we continue to like tell people to do this, we're not going to have to tell them to connect each of the 7 or so containers, right? We would be able to, can we just connect the 2 bridge networks, or is that not a feature?
I'm just I overcome the first trouble. Yes, I didn't. It's not running. I didn't have time just to run it. So I think it's too early for me just to give you an answer. I still don't know if everything is running. Yes, that was also the small step.
The first time you join a call, like you're put on the spot. You've got to share your thing. You've got to find a solution. Then you got to improve on the solution. If you could be, if you could try to be a better community member, that would be nice. If you, the sarcasm is hopefully coming off there. Like that, this is really helpful. A lot of people have been stumbling on it. So good. It's still like this is fantastic. I feel better about it. It still bugs me in general. Like it bugged me from the very start that we would ever need to tell people to, to perform such a connection. I still I sort of think it would be really nice if the Meshery deployment in Docker wasn't something separate. Like if we could, because like we bump into these issues a lot. Like once you're up and running Meshery and you're connected to Kubernetes and you deploy OSM and you deploy a workload and then you try to reference that, you try to maybe run a performance test where Meshery is like generating a lot of load and it wants to hit your workloads interface, like the sample application that you might deploy. Well, that sample app, how you reference it might be a little bit different. And this, we keep bumping our heads onto the same like NAT and separate DNS type issue. And so the problem is if we, deploy, there's other types of networking that Docker supports, host-based or MAC VLAN or IP VLAN. And the problem with those other three, the nice thing about those other three are that the connectivity issue, some of the network connectivity issues, they get set aside. Like you don't have to bridge networks anymore, because if you deploy Meshery onto the host network, you're out here and you can talk to lots of things. The problem with deploying Meshery out on the host network, whether it's MAC VLAN, IP VLAN, or host, is that the DNS that's being used is now whatever DHCP and DNS that's being used out here, which still don't know. I don't know, like some things to think about as you take further steps here, Marcin. So awesome. Okay, so that's that. I mean, will be it sounds like immediately there's a docs update to be done, and immediately to help verify the solution is like we should get this command in front of Maxime to see if that helps him as well. That's awesome. And so Husseina, when we were kind of talking about the approach to EKS.
Yeah, so yeah, the scripts, when it is called, it generates a config.yaml, and we use that config.yaml as well as auth.json to get the context. This code is in config.go. So while trying to fetch the context, that's where we use the auth.json file to get the auth details. So that's why it is needed. So if we don't have auth.json already downloaded and present in the current directory, that is where this config, system config EKS command fails.
Okay. Right.
And this is true for all the other types as well, AKS and GKE as well. So,
do we need the auth.json? Do we need that token to be able to? So we need the token to be able to have like this. A lot of this kind of doesn't. I'm not sure if we were confused when we first wrote it, but like Meshery CTL, it's sitting on the same file system that has that same. Oh, I see. I think yeah. We're trying to make it convenient on the users, and not everybody's gonna have the same situation. If your situation is the same, if you're running, we might do better just to tell users to point Meshery CTL at their kube config rather than trying to point Meshery CTL to Meshery server to then do some stuff to then push it back. Maybe we're trying to make it, in trying to make it so convenient, we're not covering all the bases maybe. Like, I guess a question here is there a need for, there's no need for Meshery CTL to have the token and to interact with Meshery server other than just trying to let the user not have to do what Marcin had to do, which was go into the UI and upload the config. I think that was the convenience that we were trying to provide.
Mhm.
And maybe we're just getting in our own way. I don't know that that's true, because
Uh, that could be the case. We are presenting the token from Meshery CTL itself. Okay.
yeah, and so we should let everybody get on with their Friday night. My thought, I'll leave you with this thought if people that are interested would think on this. I think the suggestion that I would make is for us to move away from the interaction of Meshery CTL and Meshery server to not require an auth token, to just help people run a convenience command to restructure, generate a new kube config that's compatible with their Kubernetes system, and let them manually upload it into the UI. But that's just a thought and opinion. As we go to conclude, does anyone not think that that would be a good way to go? Hussein, I guess you specifically, did you have an opinion on that?
So you're suggesting we just generate the config file and let the user manually upload it on the UI instead of having dependencies on auth.json and do the rest of the stuff. Is that the suggestion?
Yeah, and I
And
realize
document. Because anyways, they have to go to the UI to get the auth.json also. So why to, I mean, instead of that, it could be a instruction at the end of config EKS or GK file command itself to upload this generated kube config in the UI.
After that, I think actually the right experience, like the right step is, look, why are we having Meshery CTL do this stuff? Why don't you just let the user sign into Meshery UI? If it can't auto detect, if the Kubernetes that you want Meshery to speak to is not present in the user's home directory, if Meshery server can't find it, and you as a user go over, you grab your config that may not be formatted in the right way. You just grab the config that, you upload it to Meshery, then let Meshery server do those things. Let it interface with AKS, interface with GKey, like let it do, instead of building this logic into Meshery CTL. Now I realize that, well, okay, that will work fine for Minikube because we'll just use the Kubernetes Go client in Meshery server, to perform the necessary export and minify, right? And I realize we sort of get into a little, it's a little bit of an investment, but it's the right investment to use the SDK for AWS, to use the SDK for Azure, like to get it right, like, and to begin to manage and persist that config, because soon, Husseina, it's about time that Meshery stop only supporting a connection to a single cluster. It needs to start supporting, it needs to let you load up your different Kubernetes cluster credentials, and it needs to begin to let you as a user, work across clusters. Let's need to, yeah. So
Different types of clusters.
yeah. So we need the concept, the word environment. Like we need to start to make that a noun and an object, a construct inside of Meshery server. What environment are you in? Okay, this is the environment for that EKS, and it had that environment. While it would directly relate to a kube config, like to an EKS, for example, it would also have the environment. It wouldn't just be a one-to-one. It would be, you'd have the kube config, and you'd also have some potentially some other information about the environment, so that in the UI, that other information might be how many nodes are in that cluster, or what service meshes are running in that thing, or like it's just a construct that you're going to want to be able to tether some metadata to what environment that is. And you might want to say, well, Husseina can't touch that environment because she's not allowed to. So, but she can touch this environment. So like when you have that construct defined, you can begin to, in the UI, you can then navigate by environment and change things around. And so what I'm trying to justify my suggestion that we sort of take the stuff that we've done in Meshery CTL, stop using Bash, port it over to Meshery server, invest in the Go there. As we do that, invest in the constructed environment.
Okay. So can someone point me to the Meshery server code where this should move?
So we'll go. Let me orient you very briefly, and we should do a bit of a design spec. We should kind of write some of this stuff down. So it'd end up being it will end up being probably in a handler that where you would start with like, hey, there's an API, an endpoint that Meshery UI would call, like the one to upload the config currently. So there's already an endpoint where you're this Kubernetes config handler. So here's it, API Kate's config, API Kate's context. And these two functions, parse through the kube config that someone uploads. These are good. I think we should probably write down we should do a better API design, because it's kind of crappy, kind of like, there's more concerns than just parsing the file. It's more like, yeah. So thank you, Abhishek. So does this get you oriented enough, Husseina, to?
Yeah, like, I mean, the API could be like EKS Kubernetes config or AKS Kubernetes config. Maybe we can insert keywords there, right, in the API?
Yeah. Yeah, the structure might be that you have Kubernetes kind of API, potentially like API environments, like Kubernetes, and then I don't know that we have an endpoint called EKS, maybe, but a Kubernetes endpoint that behind which the parameters of the call that you're invoking would say what type it is and have the keep,
Okay. Yeah, let me read more on this. Yeah, we can have another discussion.
Yeah, very good. In the community drive, this conversation is a great one to toss into a design spec, like for us to iterate on. And but yeah. um, nice. Okay. Thank you, Marcin. Yeah, I think he left. Okay. Wow. Well, thanks, Susanna, for staying on. We've got some work ahead of us.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Have
Yeah.
a nice day. Yeah. Bye.
See ya. Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye.